Energy and foreign policy, European Union and Russia. Energy dynamics. Energy security appears to be something of a new addition to the foreign policy. The increasing dependence of the states on resources cause resource wars, and generating geopolitical structures of power, war, and trade. Before accepting energy as a foreign policy factor, two aspects need to be considered. The inherently sovereign attributes of energy. Energy's ability to dramatically transform the fortunes of states. For many countries, plentiful energy resources have been a curse rather than blessing. There are four main aims of the energy policy of European Union. A. To ensure the functioning of the energy market. B. To ensure the security of supply in the European Union via increased solidarity. C. To promote energy efficiency, energy saving, and to develop new and renewable forms of energy. D. To promote the interconnection of energy networks. The role of energy in foreign and domestic policy. States desire energy security in the same sense that they desire military and economic security. Energy indicates national prosperity and underwrites national security. Energy security means different things to different actors. According to importer states in Europe, energy security means security of supply. Exporter states like Russia, security of demand requires access to a developed and reliable market for the long-term sale of energy products. In the foreign policy, states have both economical and political concerns. Their economic concerns are about maintaining supply and demand between exporters and importers. Moreover, their political concerns are about the potential leverage exercised by exporter states over importer and transit states. Energy in post-Cold Reform. After Soviet Union broken up, Europe tried to deal with its new neighbors, using some multilateral projects such as Poland-Hungary assistance à la reconstruction économique, technical assistance to the CIS. As the catalyst of such reforms, Russia was the European Commission's main focus, and received a full 30% of European Commission aid in 1989. The European Energy Charter was signed in 1991, to help to set political context of tackling East-West energy issues. The goal was about bringing stability and clarity to all aspects of Europe's unwieldy energy industry. However, Russia, as the key player, had signed ECT, but refused to ratify. So the strategy of European Union saw its first setbacks. In an attempt to revive Europe-Russia energy dialogue was launched in 2000. It has generated some cooperation in a few key areas: East-West electricity collaboration, energy efficiency, nuclear safety, and environmental protection. However, the European Union-Russia energy dialogue has not solved the outstanding energy security issues still plaguing the European Union-Russia relationship. In 2009, Russia terminated ECT, and as regards the European Union-Russia dialogue, the termination of the ECT can also be considered as a further failure of the two sides to, at least, understand the needs and the perspectives of each other. Russia stands opposed to what it perceives as an unwelcome imposition of generic, EU-style model of liberalization targeted at itself and its neighbors. As a result, Russian foreign policy has developed into a potent mix of political revanchism. At the end, the dialogue has effectively promoted only dialogue rather than viable progress on energy security. Unfortunately, during this same period, Europe's dependence on imported Russian gas has only increased. Pre-crisis. Russia is the world's largest gas producer and second largest oil exporter in the world. Russia sees itself as a monopoly, and energy is a tool for Russian foreign policy. There have been limited attempts to construct a new pipeline project. Only Europe had its own pipeline project, called as Nabucco. However, Nabucco is closer to be a pipe dream than a pipeline. A few key contributory elements need to be borne in mind. First, the majority of European countries are heavily dependent upon energy imports. Europe is 50% dependent on Russian gas and 30% dependent on Russian oil. Second, the EU depends on crucial role played by key transit countries, across which gas pipelines run. With two major pipelines running its own territory, Ukraine is of greatest strategic importance because of connecting Russia to Europe. Third, as a transit country and major gas importer, Ukraine is itself dependent upon Russia for the revenues it charges. Ukraine also dependent on European market to keep its transit relationship with Russia healthy. And finally, it is dependent upon Russia for its own gas imports. In late 2004, a friction arose between Ukraine and Russia over Ukraine's inability to pay for Russian gas. Energy relations between Ukraine and Russia then worsened throughout 2005. By the way, Ukraine was aware of its strategic location as the pivot between Russia and Europe. However, instead of successfully using its position to its advantage, Ukraine found itself pinned uncomfortably between two different pricing systems. Ukraine appeared to have three options. First, it would have to weigh up the value of retaining pipeline ownership versus the revenue gained by keeping prices low. Secondly, it could continue to demand increased transit tariffs for Russian gas exported to Europe. Third, Ukraine could consider illegally tapping into Russian exports to feed its own market. But this could cause a major distribution in the supply to Europe, with probable result both Russia and Europe calling into question Ukraine's reliability as a transit country. Russia's options were a mirror image of Ukraine's problems. Russia could negotiate with Ukraine on the price, insist Ukraine to operate at high prices, or simply shutter the gas. Security of supply crisis. Two events contributed to the security of supply crisis. 1. Remote. 2. Proximate. The remote cause of the crisis was political, and the proximate cause of the gas crisis was commercial. What remains unclear, of course, is gas. Europeans believed that the stoppage is a Kremlin-approved tactic. However, Russia saw things differently, arguing that it had not failed to supply its contractual volumes to Europe, and any shortfall was due to illegal taken by Ukraine. To mitigate the damage to its reputation as a reliable supplier, Russia began pumping additional volumes to restore the balance. For Europe, there were three major outcomes to the gas spat. The gas stoppage left Europeans with serious concerns about Russia. The energy policies of Russia are a danger to the independence of Central Europeans. And Europe needs a clearer and more collective and cohesive policy on security of energy supply. While energy is a key facet of foreign policy, it is not yet a predominant feature. Energy will not displace traditional military force. Energy is not yet a structural feature, it is still a function of remote. The problem will remain a key international feature.